So yeah, the full-time enrollment requirement, most students don't have an issue with this because they've been here for their whole program. So like if you, for your final semester, you can be enrolled less than full-time if you have fewer than full-time hours to complete. So as long as we certify you to be less than full-time, that's fine, and you still fall within that pool. Graduate students, if they're certified full-time, they're still falling within this academic year of full-time enrollment. The problem that happens sometimes for students is they will have a pause in their program and they'll go home, and then they come back and they only have one semester left. They don't meet that one academic year requirement because they have not been here for one academic year to be eligible for OPT. So that's what that means. Once you are on OPT, yeah, you don't have to, there's no requirement to enroll any longer. But this does happen to graduate students, though, because sometimes graduate students will apply for OPT before they've actually graduated. They'll have defended and done all that stuff. So graduate studies may have them have a requirement for them to enroll, but immigration does not have that requirement for them to enroll. So when you're on OPT, look at it this way. When you're F1 student, you're a student full-time in classes. Once you're F1 OPT student, you aren't in the full-time classes anymore, and now you're working. So that's how you maintain your status. For the maintaining status while on OPT is actually not accruing more than 90 days of unemployment. I'm going to do a plug right now for students that are going to apply for OPT and be on OPT. They need to report their employment through that portal. There's a video about reporting employment. It is a huge deal right now with immigration. They are really, really watching the reporting of employment. So make sure to report your employment once you're on OPT. If you're going to apply for pre-completion OPT, you submit the application to USCIS with the fee. And then, so your pre-completion OPT can only be valid essentially up until you finish. And then you can apply then, even though you're on pre-completion OPT, you can still apply for your post-completion OPT up to 90 days prior to your completion date of your program. But you do need to submit another application and another application fee. So that's what that means, that there's two fees for that. And if you can apply for pre-completion OPT multiple times, let's say you want to do it for 2 months, one summer, and then 2 months, another summer, that it's a separate application every time you apply. So traveling while OPT is pending is a no. We do not recommend that at all. If you have to travel, like if there's an emergency while your OPT is pending, then what you'll need to do is actually wait until your card has been delivered and then have someone send that card to you in your home country, because when you come back to the port of entry, you need to have that card with you. Also, you need to be physically present in the United States at the time of application for your OPT. So for like this semester for COVID, students who finished this year abroad, they wouldn't be eligible for OPT because they had to physically be in the United States. So OPT is a benefit of the F1 status, and if you're not physically present here, you're not in an F1 status. So that's how that goes. That's why you have to be physically here to apply. But once you have your OPT card, and then you have your I-20 with the travel signature, you have your valid visa and all those documents, you're more than fine to travel while on OPT. Even if your OPT hasn't started yet, but you already have the card, that's fine too, as long as you have the card with you. It's best if you have employment when you're traveling, because when you come back to the port of entry, you can prove you maintained your status. However, if you haven't accumulated your 90 days of unemployment, they should let you back in the United States also. We have not ever had any students have any issues traveling while on OPT. We've had even students who were able to enter while their OPT was pending, just using the receipt notice. However, that is just a fluke. That could have gone the other way. That's why we highly recommend not traveling while it's pending. So it's actually, we've never heard of students having issues entering the United States as long as they maintain their status. Even if they weren't employed, as long as they were within that 90 days, they've been able to get back in. if a student did have an issue, they didn't contact us, but usually they would, or customs would contact us as well. And that also goes for students getting a new visa while they're on OPT. There's a lot of word out there in the grapevine that students say that it's harder to get a visa while you're on OPT, but we've not had any of our students ever have an issue. And we have, oh gosh, I don't know how many students on OPT at a certain time. Making out 1,000. I think that number could be wrong, but we have a lot of students. I think it's actually more like 300 to 400, but we haven't had any of our students have an issue. So it is tricky to figure out the timing of your application for OPT. And the timing is specific because if you know you have a job, that works in your favor, because if you know you have your job starting on May 8th and the end of the semester is May 7th, then you apply 90 days prior to the completion date of May 7th, and you'll have your OPT by May 8th, and you'll be good to go to start working. It's for those people who don't know if they have a job or have anything lined up, and then they're concerned that they'll exhaust their 90 days of unemployment. So let's say you don't have any job lined up, you ask for your OPT to start on May 8th, you have your card, the card has a start date of May 8th, but you have no feelers out there yet for a job at all, and then you're worried you're going to start accumulating this 90 days of unemployment. So that's the tricky part of timing the application process. Usually what I tell students is, how many feelers do you have out there? Like how confident are you that you have like interviews lined up? You think you really will have a job by the end of the semester? Because if you do the opposite and you ask for your OPT start date to be the very end of that 60-day grace period, you can't start working until you have your card. So then if you end up getting a job, you have to wait to start working at that job. So it just kind of depends on how much the students have actually probably worked with like career services and how aggressively they're on that application process or trying to find a job. I'm going to do a scenario, a timeline. A student actually called today. She's currently on OPT, and her OPT ends in May of this year, but she actually wants to start grad school at another institution. She's our student for OPT right now, but she wants to go to another school starting this spring semester. So what she can do is she can request us to transfer her record now. It will invalidate that OPT once we transfer that record, so she can't work anymore. And we make sure that students email us in writing that they understand once we transfer that record to the new school, they can no longer work. And so once we transfer that record, the new school will issue an I-20. On the other side, let's say for the same girl, her OPT ends in May. However, she doesn't have an admission for a new school until August. That's fine. You can be here, and as long as we transfer her record within that 60-day grace period of her OPT ending, she can stay here for the summer and start classes in the fall at that new school. So it goes both ways. You need to start in the next available session. So if she got admitted for spring of next year, that wouldn't work. You can't hang out for all of the rest of the year and then start school in the next spring. So. Yep. So it's the next available session within 5 months. And so summer doesn't count in that scenario. So that's why she wouldn't be able to wait till spring of next year, because the next available session is fall and the spring is way outside of 5 months. But if her OPT ended in August, then she'd be okay, because the next available session is the spring and it's within 5 months. So. I know it was really bad in the beginning of COVID. I did hear from quite a few students that even trying to find internships was really, really difficult, and trying to find jobs, obviously, because unemployment rate was so extremely high in the beginning. I personally think that's gotten better, and I haven't heard anything from students recently about having difficulties finding a job. I will say one thing, though. I don't know. It probably will only be in place probably still through this spring semester, but immigration has allowed students to work less than 20 hours and not accumulate unemployment days because of COVID. So they've given a little bit of wiggle room for students that can't find that full-time job more than 20 hours, but I can't guarantee how long that will last. So immigration is doing a few things for students during this time.
I think my words of wisdom for students would be to keep trying. I know many students who did apply for OPT in December, and I know that they were applying upwards of 80 to 100 different applications, which I understand can be daunting, but in the end, it works out and they get a position that they really enjoy and are really happy to have. It just may take a little more time and commitment than in a normal time period, I guess. And then I think the other piece that I've seen is just being creative in how you find your positions. I know LinkedIn has become very large in the pandemic because it's been a way for people to connect remotely. And as networking is looking different than in past years, and the internet has become a very good place for that. And then as far as immigration tips and advice, watch the videos multiple times if you need it, because it's really important information. And I know a lot of students, when they're in the process of applying for OPT, they're just I'm sure they view the videos as a checklist, just like another class assignment of, oh, I need to go through this and this. But that information is really important, and you'll need to have it throughout your full year or 2 years of OPT, because not all of it is just application. So take notes, come back and rewatch them if you need to, even if you've already passed the quiz. It'll be good information to have.